I am glad to finally see Assassination Classroom back. After pretty much no episode for 2 weeks, I was getting quite, sad to not see a new episode, but I'm glad that we finally got one. It's not canceled, it was just on a 2-week hiatus, and it was well worth the wait for this episode, because the comedy was damn good. Oh my god, I love the comedy in this episode. But before I get into that, I'm just gonna say the new character introduced into this episode, Vitch-chan, or I'm just gonna call her Vitch-chan. Vitch-chan, oh, I love her character. I really love her character. She has a really spicy personality. It's just a character I like, and I just like her overall introduction in this episode. But the main thing I want to point out is, I love how Assassination Classroom actually plays with real life, realistic, things that happen. Let's be real here. When students, come up with a name for, a teacher or something in classroom, usually that name sticks. It will stick with the teacher or someone for the rest of their entire term of being in that school or something. And to see how the professor, Vitch-chan said, oh, you can stop calling me Vitch-chan now, you can stop calling me that. And then you're like, oh, we'll call you Professor Bitch then. And I'm like, oh my god. And they said, Sensei, that name is stuck with you now. It is completely stuck with you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that is true. Because usually in school or in other different places of society, when you get called something, usually that name might stick with you for the rest of your time there. And I love how Assassination Classroom actually implements this into the series. But it's not just that. You can also get some funny, ironic, laughs from this episode, because, let's be real here, I know one time or another in someone's past, depending on the person, has probably always wanted to call their teacher some form of bad name, maybe bitch, just something. And to see how the students can actually get away with something like this in this episode, it just makes it so fucking funny. It really does. Seeing how they can actually call her bitch, or Vitch, whatever, it's funny. And that's what this episode is. Mainly, it's just giving you the introduction to Vitch-chan, getting to see this pro-assassin at work, and she fucked up bad. Her overall introduction, at first I thought she was going to be a ditzy teacher that was just about, boobs, opie, just getting all sexual towards the teacher, Koro-sensei. I thought that's what type of character she was, but after finding out her true personality, I'm like, oh, she was seducing him to try to manipulate him for she can assassinate him. So, we have a pro-assassin introduced into the series, and so we get to see exactly the level of a pro-assassin to these assassins that are students and, being forced to be assassins. And you get to see the really different traits between them. But the other thing too is the actual real pro assassin actually has to learn how to kind of change her pro ways, because if she uses regular pro assassin techniques, she's not going to be able to kill Koro-sensei. She needs to be able to be flexible when it comes to trying to change her tactics to kill Koro-sensei, work with others and stuff like that. And so, to see how this was implemented, I like that a lot, and it just gave her a lot of good characterization and slight development also in this episode, which was quite shocking to see for this new character. But now, getting into the factor of Koro-sensei and this teacher and stuff, I personally believed when I was watching this episode, I thought Koro-sensei was actually going to deny the teacher in her, trying to seduce him, trying to rub all over him with her opie and stuff. I thought he would have said no. Let me explain why. In the first episode of Assassination's Classroom, from what we could see, Koro-sensei used to have someone he probably cherished, loved, or something in the past. We saw it, and supposedly this person died in his arms, from what we saw in the first episode. I was going to assume that Koro-sensei might have turned her down if she was a ditzy teacher, because he had someone else he loved. I was willing to bet something like that would have happened, but it did not happen, which kind of took me by surprise. So it shows us a little bit more characteristics on Koro-sensei. But Koro-sensei, at the end of the day, he was actually manipulating the teacher to reveal her tactics, reveal the assassin, because he knew what she was doing the entire time. He had a good nose, which was revealed in this episode. His nose is really good. He can detect if, there's, some old man in the room, an old man smell, which is kind of fucked up if you think about it. So, seeing how he has a really good nose, also he can actually realize what is going on here when the room's odor has been changed. It just goes to show you he is really adept when it comes to finding out what is going on around him, and he knows when someone's probably trying to assassinate him. And this part of this episode really did a great job of demonstrating that, and I felt like that was a really good way to really show this episode. So, one thing I do want to mention, the actual sensei, Vitch-sensei, which she said she wasn't going to teach the kids in this episode, she was kind of being a bitch pretty much to the entire classroom. I'm not teaching you, oh, you're the well-known E-class, you guys are all failures anyways, I'll give you all 5 million yen if even if you don't kill him. If I kill him, I'll give you all 5 million yen. And you saw how all the students changed into monsters, pretty much. Like, they were pissed off with their teacher because they're not sitting back and dealing with this shit when they have dealt with it majority of their entire time being in E-class. And Coral Sensei is like the first teacher to really come in and give them the respect they deserve. And so they were not going to put up with that shit. So to see how she learned firsthand, you don't mess with these students when they're pushed into certain social norms in society. And Assassination Classroom really does a good job at demonstrating stuff like that, and I feel like that's what makes the series shine so well. So, that's pretty much this episode of, you know, Assassination's Classroom. It was a good episode. I fucking love it. Vitch-sensei, oh my god, like one of the best senseis, besides Coral Sensei. Coral Sensei is best sensei, but, I mean, she's best female sensei. She's fucking nice, but tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I mean, how do you feel about this episode of Assassination Classroom? I love you all. Please be safe. Chibi out.